Stefan. How you doing?
Good, good. Now I don't know who Stefan is, but you got Steven with you.
Ah! All right, that's a good start. We'll
That's
let's edit that. Let's edit
no problem, Richard. Go ahead.
that. Steven, got it. Steven. That's a really good start. That's a really good start. Okay, so
Yeah,
so
so
for
we're close friends. We've known each other for years.
it's been years and years we haven't spoken to.
It has been. Yes, absolutely. All good, all good. I've been called worse, so it's all good.
So for those who may not know you, you might as well introduce yourself because I clearly I'm
Yeah.
not the one to do
No, all good. Clearly, yes.
that.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah. So hey, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's kind of weird because I have my podcast and I'm now on the other side of it. And I'm watching somebody else kind of go through the notes and what to ask and stuff. So it's a nice little treat that way. So yeah,
Good.
so Stephen Green, mortgage agent with the Financial Collective is the name of the outfit,
Nice.
and been doing, oh man, I've been banking more than 25 years, and just all grown up now. I was with RBC for
Cool.
12 and a half years as a mortgage professional there, and January 2023, I believe, moved on to being a mortgage agent, independent individual. It's been a lot of fun, growing the team, doing the technology thing, and yeah, having a blast, to be honest with you.
That's awesome. So you've got like what 25 to 30 years of this. I mean, with you have enough gray to show you've got authority in this. You've been doing this for many years.
If you go back to my first pro pitcher, my professional pitcher when I was with RBC, call it now 13, 14 years ago, it's like a before and after. Like it's like before you do this job and now it's after. Like it was
I
all
didn't even
nice and
recognize you.
relaxed.
I didn't even recognize you.
I know, I know, I know. The more experience or somebody, oh, you look so experienced, or like what you just said is, I look like hell. Thanks. I know it's what this job does to you. So
So I'm thrilled about this because you must have quite an array of knowledge about the financial industry, but also the more specifically mortgage. So what have you seen? Let's just jump into it, to the depth of it, because what have you seen over the years, for the good or the bad, that currently we're in right now? That kind of explains where we're at the moment.
you know, as you become more experienced, you realize that everything in business, mortgages, real estate, everything is big picture. That would be my biggest
Mm,
comment here. And I think, our as a buyer, when you're looking to buy a home, especially if it's owner occupied, there's an emotional thing, it's short term. But as professionals, the one thing I've seen is just trying to understand and appreciate it's all big picture. Everything's ebbs and flows. And, I think, I lived through the 2000s, right?
yeah.
I'm going to date myself here, but listen, I was a teenager in the 90s and I saw all the crazy stuff going on. And then, dot com boom, and then
Hmm.
2008. And, the last, I tell people the last 15 years before the last couple of years, mortgages have been on sale. Like we've had
Yeah.
people just, generate incredible wealth. Okay, well, guess what? What comes up's got to come down. Like we were not
Hmm.
going to go on that high nonstop. So I think we were just talking about it this morning on a call with one of my real estate office partners, and what was the number? Every recession is followed by another buildup, right? You're
Yeah.
never going to be perfectly balanced, and I think how we got here should be no huge surprise when you have rates at 1 point nothing percent,
Yeah,
and
that was very cheapest money. I mean, that will
yeah.
inflate all prices, definitely.
Yeah, and when you have the minister, the Bank of Canada governor, and listen, because this is my podcast, I call him Tiffy Boy. Like, when he comes out and in 2000 says,
Yeah,
he's like, go spend, my children, go ahead, spend. They're going to be low
yeah.
for long. It's what do, right? You do the addition on your house. You buy a new car. You're not scared of a $700,000 mortgage because the
Mhm.
rates are nothing,
It's
right?
so cheap,
So
so cheap.
yeah, so
So
I
so
think
there's
it's
a downside to all this cheap money, and we're living it at the moment. So because
exactly.
naturally, I mean, naturally, historically, 6%, 6, 7% has been the norm. I remember back in the 80s, my father had He was talking about, he wrote it down. It's like 6, 7%. It was 7, 8, 9, even 9 was the norm back in certain times. So we've been flushed with cheap money for many years, and now we're feeling a bit of the pain. So you're telling me that a lot of people, they see in their current situation, but not look at the big picture. And what is the big picture? What should be people looking for the big picture?
I think we do have, I don't want to make it sound better than it is in some cases.
Yep.
And I see clients for the first time ever, clients who are genuinely struggling. Okay. They bought at the peak. They bought at
Yeah.
the peak with 5% down. And yeah, it's a term that's, bountied about, but the struggle is real for many, many families,
Mm.
right? I think most families, if they're able to make it through this valley that's very slowly now getting better, with the outlook on rates with on the fixed side, and of course the prime lending rate, if they can get through, understanding they probably were okay through the low rates, if they can get through it now,
Until what,
there is,
2025 here?
I'm gonna say I'm going to say if we can get through 2025, because
Yeah.
don't forget, we have, what was the number? $901 billion in mortgages for renewing this year, 2025, and 2026. Now, that number will be lower because people will renew earlier than they should have and stuff like
Okay.
that. But I think if people can get through it, I think to answer your question, I'd say by 2025, end of that, and I base that on, again, renewing mortgages, people settling in
Yep.
to what their new norm is, okay? Realizing that, okay, we really can't go out for dinner that often, right? Or
Hmm.
we don't go on that vacation.
Yep.
Things have to balance out. I think that's how long it's going to take to balance out. But where I think what will speed up that recovery a little bit is rates coming down this year. So
Oh
the
yeah.
second
Okay. So you
second those
predict
prime
it,
rates
it
come
may
down.
happen. Like in April, it's going to happen
Yeah,
potentially.
my spidey sense tells me when we look at stuff like business insolvencies,
Yeah.
okay,
Oh, tell me more. Tell me
mortgage
more about
delinquencies
that. Like,
are,
what do you know the
yeah,
numbers? What is it
yeah,
last year?
business insolvencies I think are up like, don't quote fact check me on this,
Yep.
but
Yep.
it's up like 500%. It's some insane number.
Really, really.
You've also got I posted on social media around household debt. Like
Yeah.
household debt, we separate it between unsecured debt and secured. So the unsecured debt is just skyrocketing, right? And that's
Mhm.
people, like I think I said this in my podcast, where people aren't using their credit cards just to collect points anymore. They're using their credit cards to get by, right? So
Oh yeah.
at some point, these debts, lines of credit in particular, they're going up. Well, rates as they start to trickle down, the prime lending rate in particular,
Mhm.
that will give them some relief there because a lot of those lines of credit are linked to prime. They're not fixed.
Okay.
So some
So
stuff's got to
do you
give.
have tips for people to get by till I heard the term I heard was survive to 2025. That it sounded
Yes,
nicely,
I like
that's a
that.
nice term. So
I
do you
like
have
that.
any tips for people who may be struggling, who don't see the end, who are looking short term, but you want them to see a big picture, which I think that's a great perspective because I'm a big picture guy, but sometimes the details you can get lost in the weeds. What do you suggest to people that are lost in the weeds and are looking to get out?
The the biggest thing is the realization that there is now going to be consequences to additional spending over and above your needs.
Hmm.
Okay. And so once you wrap your, and listen, my wife and I were the same thing. Like we've wrapped our brain around this where um you're tired at night, make your own dinner, right?
Yeah.
You have to budget. We spend time budgeting with
Yeah.
people, which we didn't have to do that before. Who cares? It's
Yeah.
free money. Go
Yeah.
spend, right?
Yeah.
Um the art of a budget is
Oh,
not taught in schools. So
true.
all these millennials and now Gen Z coming through, they don't know how to
Yeah.
do it,
Yeah.
right? So we spend time with that. My comment to all these folks are you've got to look at any discretionary spending and you're probably going to have to stop. Like, too
Hmm.
bad. That's it. We're done, right?
That's a very good point. Glad you speak about this because the stuff that I'm reading, talking with other people, we speak about returns on investments. We're always talking about returns on investment and all that. But the biggest return sometimes is just not spending, saving. which is not sexy at all. No one talks about it. They're not going to have a big webinar on how to save, because it's so simple, because it also simply involves discipline, which is once again challenging for those, especially if for the past 10 years our habits have been just to spend in order to enjoy life and to potentially make money. And so what would tell
Well,
me,
and I
yeah.
think too, we got to realize too, over the last 10 years, from again, from about 2013 till 2022, any extra spending you did that maybe you shouldn't have done, all
Yeah.
your sins were forgiven because your house kept going up in value.
Oh yes.
Refi,
Yeah.
what? No big deal. We're just going to refi
Yeah.
again. And listen, I know mortgage professionals that weren't in it before maybe said, "Oh, just refi next year. Just do it next year. Do it
Hmm.
again. Do it again."
Yeah.
Whereas people like myself, I was like, "Hey guys, just remember, we want to maybe get out of this at some time before you die, maybe, right?" Like, but people, when it's so cheap, again, all sins are forgiven. Off we go again. Well,
Mm.
that came to a halt mid 2022, and now you can't refi. It's pretty much what happened on that movie, The Big Short, in the US, right? It was the
Yeah.
same thing. Oh, just refi, no problem. Well, no, you can't now because your price is coming down or it's staying the same. So,
Okay. So now we're in a lull, and we're going to get out of it, of course, because anything eminent is there's always change. Whatever is going to go up, it's going to go down. Whatever goes down, goes up. It's always the same. So what kind of opportunities are you seeing in the market that people can actually take advantage of?
yeah, it's an exciting time right now, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm not giving you a sales pitch. I know whenever you hear it's exciting, go by, but uh, where it's really exciting is now all of a sudden you have to be very, very on top of the decisions you're making. So, for example, investors. Okay, back in the day, again, a lot of forgiveness for your sins and mistakes. Where
Hmm.
back in the day, you just go get a rental property, rent it out, and boom, you're making money.
Yeah.
There's no cash flow analysis or demographic or
Yeah, yeah,
my
yeah.
property manager wants 12%. Oh, give it to him. It's no big deal, right? But now you can't buy a rental property without working the numbers.
Yeah.
Does it make sense? What is my ROI? What is my bad debt? What's my vacancy? You have to be very, very in tune to what your market is. And
We're more cautious now.
yeah, and I think that's a good, you should have been like that to begin with, but you didn't
Yeah.
have to be, right? When you're talking 6% or whatever the rate is, you got to look at, okay, this doesn't cash flow. So I got to find a property that I can make cash flow with multiple sources of income. Like you got to be a real estate investor, not I'm buying properties and I'm lucky, right?
Mhm.
And even on the investment side now, the people who are surviving in the business, and I use the term surviving because that's what
Mhm.
everyone's doing until things come back,
Oh yeah.
it's all advice based. This is what we need to plan. This is what we've started to do. We've become mortgage planners. If you
Mhm.
are working with a mortgage agent or broker that is not a
Yeah.
planner and looking forward, you're losing out because
Yeah.
you have to. That's just the way it is now.
Yeah. And
So
all realtors are now coaches as well, because you need to be a bit more coached to get the right deal and make sure the numbers work. Well, what's your take on the cash flow? I think a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on the cash flow, which is obviously needed. What's your take on it?
yeah, I've heard, and I'm an investor myself.
Yep.
I think I'm always a cash flow guy. I think, yeah, you can look at cap rate and appreciation. And listen, the investors who were getting by on luck over
Hmm.
through the 2010s there, they didn't have to worry about that. Oh, it's going to go up. Who cares? Doesn't matter the
Yeah.
cash. Oh, I'll let my tenants stay longer without raising the rent every year because who cares? The property's going to go up anyway.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, and especially if, and maybe I have the lender hat on, like your property has to cash flow. I'm not putting money into an asset or an investment to lose unless I'm in some crazy market where I'm
Hmm.
guaranteed a 50% increase every year, which doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I'm a cash flow guy. I know some people think cap rate and this and that, but until you get into multi-unit, my feel is I'm a cash flow guy. Cash flow's king. If it doesn't cash flow, don't buy it.
No, no. How do lenders see properties that don't cash flow? Because there are a few. I know a few investors that I mean, their plan wasn't to not make it cash flow, but because of the fixed variable rates, all of a sudden now it's eating away the cash flow. How do lenders see that moving forward for, say, refinancing or potentially buying another property?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, at the end of the day, with any lender, things have to be affordable. Okay. And we're going to have some tightening of the rules coming down in 2025 where, things are going to have to be within range. The exceptions we used to get, okay, for being over acceptable affordability, they're becoming fewer and far between. So if you
Hmm.
have, and I have clients like this, I don't know, maybe I'm the worst mortgage professional in the world, but I would tell my
That's
clients,
sound advice. I think it's
yeah,
rational, sound advice. Like,
yeah, they
please.
would bring me a condo or something, and I'm like, I know you make a lot of money, so this is going to cover your mistake, but this doesn't cash flow. You're negative $700, bud. You still want this? Oh, it'll go up in value. All
That's just
right,
speculation. That's
yeah.
not, that's, yeah, that's just,
I some of those clients don't call me back now with a market gun because they don't want to say, "Oh, you were right." I get it. I understand, right? I get it, but it's what the lenders they're not. You can cover up a poor cash flowing property with high employment income and
yep.
other stuff. But if you have a non cash flowing property, and we identify them in our applications, and we're trying to tell clients, sorry, you can't afford another property, this is why lenders aren't hot on that,
Hmm.
but for the sole reason that it hurts your overall affordability. There's ways around it and coaching we can give the client, but by and large, it's not generally a good thing in the lender's eyes. Now, I also do residential lending, right? So
Yep.
I know commercial is a different beast, and I just don't go into the commercial world because I don't have the attention span to do a commercial deal, to be
Hmm.
honest. But uh, it's not generally a great thing on the residential side. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So considering that, what are you telling your clients at the moment, considering that we are in, I sense this housing crisis. It's getting pretty bad. You're familiar with Bill 23, the fact that the provincial government is now pushing for more housing because it's gone a bit crazy. I mean, the prices have gone down because of the high interest rate, but the rentals have not. Like the prices are they've stayed the same. And not only that, but now immigration's come in, and it appears as if immigration is really the only thing holding our economy together at the moment. They're bringing the money in, but their living conditions are like two people per room in order to make it work. And this seems
Yeah.
to be the norm. It doesn't seem to be. I mean, what's your take? What do you suggest to clients at the moment in this situation? And there's opportunity to be had, considering that we're in a housing crisis, and now the government of Ontario is now pushing for potentially 4 units per lot.
Yeah. So you hit on a couple of things there, and I'll talk about rents and immigration because, again, I think I posted this on social media or somewhere. I post so much on places I can't remember where I fricking put half the stuff. But
Yeah.
there is, I think, since 2000, if you look at the graph of the increase in rental amounts,
Mhm.
it is almost identical to the amount of immigration.
Okay.
It's very simple. Okay,
Really?
so the more immigration we've got, the higher rents are going to go because don't forget, a lot of new Canadians that come in, and then permanent, non-permanent, we'll just talk about it in general. A lot of them, they don't come with a lot of money off the
Mhm.
bat because they have regulations from their home country, stuff like that, or they
Yep.
can't afford right away. They need some established credit, whatever.
I think
So,
the average immigrant that arrives, they're renting for about what, 7 years or so, 5, 7 years before
oh
buying potentially,
yeah,
or
yeah,
even longer.
probably, yeah,
Okay.
probably the way that it is right now,
Yeah.
probably, yeah. And I think I think all the new stuff that they just came out with. So immigration minister, I think a month ago said we're capping student visas.
Yep.
Okay. And then I think just last week I had announced that or I had reported that they said they're going to start to cap up I think it was non-permanent residences, right? So they're capping
Mhm.
immigration basically.
Yeah.
Okay. So
But
should we
is that
rents come down?
I mean, it sounds like news, but when we allow 1 million people in the country, it's like prior. I mean, before that, I mean, let's put this into perspective. The last time we allowed 1 million people, and we need people. The last time we allowed 1 million people in the country of Canada was back in World War One. It's this is drastic. In the past, it used to be what, 300, 400,000, and they jump to 500,000, which is substantial. And then going to a million, cutting back, that's just bringing it back to the norm, it seems.
Yeah, and not to get political. I mean,
Yep.
I make fun of JT and Disney Plus lady. I mean, all the stuff that has
Yeah.
been going on,
Yeah.
the lack of foresight on what the hell is happening. Like it's
It's
just
a mess.
mind.
It's a
And this
mess.
is this is where he may pay for this with his job. And I think it's
Yeah.
kind of warranted a little bit, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. I'm not saying we got an incredible alternative, right? But at the same breath, like this is not good. We're not in a
Yeah.
good place right now.
No, no,
So
but it's not like we're the only country in this predicament. I mean, we're getting by. It's not like anyone. There's no blood on the streets at the moment, so it's all good. There's still opportunities to be had. It's just it is a time where, especially this is like a hangover from COVID. I think this is from basically a hangover from the cheap money that we've had for so many years, and we're paying for it now, and it's just tightening the belt a bit. And I think those who may have had too much debt, too much leverage, are feeling the pain, but overall, I think for the most part, we're going to be good. What do you tell your clients as opportunities that are coming up that you may see in the lending world?
yeah, in general, first time home buyer, investor,
Yeah,
whoever, right,
yeah.
whoever I'm talking to, I always say this. If you can afford something and it makes sense, do it.
Mm,
Don't time the market. Don't even
yeah.
bother. I can tell you right now, spring 2023, all right, rates started coming down, right? We had a frenzy of buyers,
Yep.
okay? And people are like, oh, I'm gonna wait. Rates are going down again. I'm like, "Oh, dude, I'm telling you, just be prepared. Like
Yeah.
it might not happen. These same people came back to me at the end of the year. Can I buy now? Now it's no. In the
Mm,
spring, it was yes at this price. Now it's no because the rates had
mm,
gone up, right? So I tell people just don't even bother timing the market. If you are emotionally ready and you can afford it, and it's the right decision,
yeah.
buy a house, right? Because you don't know what the future brings. What's the term? Marry your house, date your rate. Like
Yeah.
really,
Yes. Yes. That's
right?
right.
So if you can get in, right? Are we going to see a plummet in prices? I honestly don't think we are because there's such a glutton of buyers that still need to buy. They're sitting on sidelines, and we've been very
Yeah.
busy with those
Yeah.
folks lately.
And there's low
So
inventory everywhere. There's low inventory. We're not finding any much houses
yeah.
to and I don't know if you know, but the new builds, they're not even building it. I think they've stopped building for a while.
So I'm a sponsor of Waterloo Region Association of Realtors. So I
Yeah.
do the golf tournament. I don't golf, believe me, nobody wants me golfing, but I sit at the
Yeah.
hole all day and may or may not drink beverages I'm not supposed to.
Okay.
But so I see all the people coming through. And I was curious about this. So we had builders, because it's not just realtors, it's builders, it's
Yep.
commercial, whatever. So we had three different sets of builders come through. And I asked them all the same question, like, so what do you guys do all day? Because I'm
Mm,
pretty sure you're not building them. Like, what's going on, right? And all of them, without exception, basically said, you know what? We'll build houses here and there, but we're golfing. Like,
yeah.
we're just not building homes. Like,
Yeah.
because A, we don't know if people can close.
Hmm.
B, we don't know what the hell the price really is at the time of closing. And C, their dirt financing is so expensive. We're not making money. Oh, and then D, we don't have enough tradespeople anyway. So
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
well, what are we building for? So what was the God, up until end of December, January, single family building permits were the lowest in like 20 or 30 years.
Really.
Like off the, so what was the number? Oh God, it was end of January, it was 25 to 1 population growth to new home build, to new single family homes. 25 to 1.
That's
I
crazy.
wasn't good in math. I still am good in math.
Yeah.
That's not good. Like I know that's not good. But we're in Canada and Canadians love single family homes. So
Mm,
this whole thing with the provincial government and the 4 units, yeah, okay. I think they got to allow it. Anything multi-res is important. But when you get certain communities, we'll call them bedroom communities outside of the GTA,
yep.
they all want their single family home. Like that's what they want. So what are you going to do? They're not building. Why bother?
So what do you see this playing out in the next 5, 10 years? I mean, are we getting out of this? I mean, we got to be optimistic on it certain ways.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think. I think things will balance out. And what I mean by that is people who are over indebted, okay, things will happen, right?
Yep.
They'll start to rent, they'll become renters. 2025 is when the immigration numbers are supposed to come back down, okay?
Mhm.
That will happen. We have the investors that didn't do their due diligence, that inventory will enter back, okay? Um, I do feel strongly that if you did your due diligence and you have an asset that nobody else has in the form of a home,
Mhm.
I fear a little bit that, it's going to become that the middle class is a little bit smaller every little day, right?
Oh, okay.
Upper class has these, again, you got something no one else has, man. You got a house, right?
Mhm.
And then of course, the lower class will be where they are, but I think it will balance out. I really do.
Are you seeing people at the moment selling their houses and then eventually renting? Is that happening
Yes.
now? Really?
Yeah, as long as there's enough equity, right? So I've
Mm.
seen I've seen situations where unfortunately the bank has stepped in and said, "Hey, we need you out in 30 days." And we tell
Mm.
people, like, jump before you're pushed. Like, do not let the bank take your house
Yeah.
if you can, as long as the value makes sense, right? So we are seeing a little bit of that for
Are
sure.
are people build living in duplexes where they own the upper half and the basement? They're renting things out. I mean, that's
We're even
how.
seeing, yeah, but the thing with that is that that's so hard to find. That's so hard to, because everybody
Yeah, a lot
wants
of
that.
investors want that. Yeah.
Well, okay, so anyone who wants a second unit, it's not just investors, it's also
Mm.
new Canadian, the first-time home buyers that can't afford
Mm.
anything else. So that market is intense right now.
Yeah.
But we also see, and I've got a few new Canadians where they're now here, and it's two families actually buying to own or
Mm.
occupy both units,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, the multi-res thing, I believe I'm not versed on this at all, but I think in a lot of other countries, this is a thing where, families,
Yeah.
they might not join financially, but multi-residential, more than one, they're not actually renting, they're actually living there.
Hmm.
Like,
I've heard of
big
certain
deal.
cultures where they group together, like there's maybe three, four families buying a house, and then once that house is paid off for, they help the other family, which is very, very close family, to buy their house, and then they dan it down. I mean, there's many ways of going about it, but it's also long-term generational, which I brings it down to the big picture, as you were mentioning. Anything else you're seeing, like the good stories about people actually taking, I mean, opportunity. I really feel that this is a great time of opportunity, and it sounds difficult because sometimes people are out of funds who they've already used it like 3 4 years ago. But I see the prices down diminishing uh,
Yeah.
quite low where the numbers work, specifically for, especially if there's 3 units in there, but also for student rentals as well.
Yeah. I see all of that where, again, I think anyone who has the right people working with them
Yep.
are not struggling to find stuff. Okay.
Hmm.
So if you don't have the right mortgage broker, the right realtor, the right
Yeah.
lawyer, whatever, those are the people right now that are kind of struggling to find stuff. Okay.
Hmm.
In general, I think anybody who understands where things could be going and does their research, that's where the opportunity is. It's not, I don't think it's a particular property, a particular area, nothing like that, because there's
Hmm.
always pros and cons to everything.
Definitely.
I think it's people who just in general have the understanding and the vision and the right people working with them. They're the ones that are capitalizing. And that's what I said earlier, where as long as you understand kind of what's going on, right?
Hmm.
That's the key thing here, right? It's not, because yeah, there's lots of doom and gloom. Absolutely, there's lots of doom and
It's
gloom,
easy to
but
find the doom and gloom. I mean, just
it
just
is.
just slip on
But
the,
if
the
you can
news.
understand, yeah, if you can understand what's going on and really, do your research and understand what's going on in the economy, then you know
Mhm.
what? Those are the people. It's not a thing or a property or location. It's a mindset.
Oh yeah, 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 definitely,
Right?
definitely. So
So
what are the opportunities that you are seeing that you're helping with your clients? Are you seeing
Yeah, a
specific
lot of
opportunities or stories that you can share with us?
yeah, I'm seeing millennials and Gen Z right now are trying to do a lot of work to get together on things. A lot of I can't afford it. Can we find
Mm,
a friend to do it? Now, we always have to make sure we go through cohabitation agreements and stuff like that, but that is a real conversation, right? We have we're seeing a lot of we're going to call them the baby boomers, okay, where they're it's going to sound terrible, but they're just not dying very quickly. Okay, so the transfer of wealth is
it's gonna
not
take
happening, right? Yeah,
they're
so
they're eating all that vegan food. They're just surviving.
yeah, like get back to your bacon and butter, man. Like but that's the reality. They're all living longer, so
Yeah.
the transfer of wealth is not happening. So the one
Okay.
opportunity we see, and a lot of parents are doing this now. Here's your early inheritance. Take it now. You
Ah,
get to see
yes.
you enjoy it, right?
Yes.
And we're seeing more reverse mortgages because the
Really?
parents don't want to pull out their capital because they're living off the capital of their investment. So we see all sorts of different stuff like that. And that's where we get a little bit, I don't want to use the term creative, but we give out that advice where it's like, yeah, get together with your friends. We'll help
Yeah.
you do a cohabitation agreement so you have an exit strategy. Mom and dad, stop hoarding the house. Give the kids some money because you're living too long, right? Like
Yeah.
that's where we see I want to say maybe the solution
Mhm.
to where the gaps are, right? Um, from a rental property perspective, I think the as long as you've got an understanding of multiple streams of income for a property,
Yes, yes.
that's again, but that's drilling down now into understanding you got the right realtor, the right mortgage person to
Yeah.
do that, right? Purchase plus improvements,
Yeah.
or you can still take from a HELOC to do that work. So
I think you're
coming up with
touching
that,
upon this idea that I've mentioned before. This is that business, a lot of it involves, you know, interaction with people, your network as well. But there's a huge element of creativity. It's those who are creative who can solve problems creatively with, that's outside the box in a way. Those are the ones who succeed.
absolutely, and especially with investors, I mean, it's all about finding different solutions to make stuff work, right?
Yeah.
So
Like
whether
give us an example, like something you've seen through your
yeah,
clients.
so when and more so when the property comes to us, right? So
Yeah.
if we're able to if the mortgage broker and the realtor are working together, understanding what's in that property, is there another unit? Can we put in another unit to make
What's the potential?
yeah, if they can, so I'll give an example. So if they go with one, let's say it's their first rental,
Yeah.
okay, and it's a single family, but I know they're going to put in two units
Yeah.
or whatever, okay, they're going to create additional income. I need to know that because we're trying to plan for number two, right? So if we're
Mm,
looking at number two, yeah, we need to do this on this property to be able to do the second one because we need X number of dollars on rental income, as an
mm.
example. Okay. So that's kind of where the planning and the getting I don't want to again, I don't want to use the term creative, but giving the right advice to say,
Yes.
hey, Mr. Klein, you want five properties? You want the Scott McGilvery dream. Okay, well, guess what?
Mm.
This is what you need to do, right? You need to do this. You need to make sure you're not just going to buy a single family home in, Kitchener, and all of a sudden you're going to be rich because that doesn't cash flow. Like it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So it's stuff like it's more just doing the planning and making sure they know what they need to do to get to the next spot. So
That's smart. Yeah, as you mentioned, the big picture. You need to
yeah.
step by step. I think that's great. So what do you suggest? Like, can you leave a few tips for people just starting off that may be listening to the doom and gloom, but there's ways of twisting this about and having the right mindset to succeed down the road. And if they're just starting off in their 30s or something, what do you have the 5 tips you would suggest for people?
Oh, five
Yeah, could
tips.
you provide five? I
Whoa.
mean, you've already mentioned a few. I mean, the
Oh,
savings part
I know.
about
I
it
was
is
hoping you
is
start with three, and then I see what else I come up with as I come up with the first three.
okay. Let's just go three then. Let's go three.
All right, cool. I'll give as many as I can.
Yeah.
All right. The biggest thing is, and this drives me insane. Okay. Make sure you watch your credit.
Oh,
Please,
really? People
everybody.
don't
Like,
check it out.
Listen, I think okay, so I'm Gen X. Okay, so
Okay.
when I was in school, I did learn a little bit about this, right?
Yeah.
They don't learn that stuff
No,
anymore.
no. I
Oh,
screwed mine over in university. That's when I learned. It was over
right.
$80. It was silly, but I
Yeah, you
checked
get
it
the
out.
free football, you get the MBNA card, they charge the annual fee, and then it goes to your parents' house and you never pay the bill. I get it,
Exactly.
heard
Yeah.
it, done it, the whole bit. Yeah. The biggest thing is understanding and learning credit because they
Hmm.
don't know. I don't
Yeah.
fault them. They don't know, right? And it's just it's not taught. They don't they go to use Borrowell or Credit Karma, which just sells them more credit cards, right?
Hmm.
It's an advertising company. So first thing, get talk to somebody about your credit,
Yeah.
okay? That understands it and how it properly works. That's the top tip. After
It's a good
that,
one. That's a good one.
yeah,
Often overlooked.
understand. Yeah, yeah.
So good
Understand.
credit, what, 650, 700?
Oh, yeah. I always tell people anything over 680 is a good day for me. So it's,
Okay.
so anything over 600 is normally acceptable, but 680 and higher is where you want to be. There's so many different parts that make up the credit
Hmm.
bureau. The one that hurts people the most, mainly because of the times we're coming off of, is percentage utilization. So I've had
Yes.
clients where,
Yes.
they've never missed a payment in their life,
Yeah. But they're maxing
everything's
it out.
maxed
And
out.
everything's maxed out. Yeah.
Ooh,
So
that
people
score.
should be checking what? Monthly, every 6 months, every year?
Absolutely monthly. Like
Monthly.
absolutely. And not only because of, making sure the score is there, but we live in a digital age.
Yeah.
Your identity can be taken over and your life ruined in
Good
no
point.
time.
Good,
I
very
just had
good
a I
point.
just had a client with he had his Hotmail hacked
Okay.
and he through a bunch of stuff that happened, he almost lost 50 grand.
Wow.
And I was working on the more, there were times I was actually emailing with the fraudster and we didn't know
What?
it. So
Oh,
I'm paranoid about this stuff. I use VPNs, I
yeah.
change my wife hates the passwords because the Disney Plus password is 25 letters long, okay?
I love it. Okay. Tip number
Because my
two.
credit
What's your
card's in there.
tip
Yeah.
number one? Go to check your credit on a
Yeah, check your
monthly
credit.
basis. Just because of the
Absolutely.
times.
And no
Which
credit karma. No credit karma. You're going to use a major bank or TransUnion and Equifax. It's free now. Go check it
yeah.
there. It's free. Bill see something out of Quebec. So, second thing, especially if you're a first timer, just
Mhm.
understand the concept of the starter home is back.
What do you mean by that?
You might need to move into something that's not perfect
Oh
because you
yeah.
can't afford it because the rates are higher. My wife and I had a starter home. It was horrible. We hated
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I moved in. There was mice and ants in the wall. It was just that
Yeah.
was part of it.
Starter home, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to get the perfect home. It's just not going to, when you're starting off, it's okay. Yeah, build
Yeah.
up. It's long term, right? So starter home's a big one. If you're an investor, I would also, so two parts of that cash flow, right?
Hmm.
Given where the rates are, I think cash flow is really
What's it?
important.
What's a good amount of cash flow? Like what?
Anything more than zero, anything more than
Yeah,
zero.
that's a good
Because
answer.
you got to remember, most banks will include bad debt vacancy. So if you're $100
Hmm.
cash flow, you might be negative to some of the
Hmm.
lenders, right?
Good
So there's
point.
some extra things that are thrown in there. So
Yeah.
if you're in two parts, cash flow for sure, and gone are the days of having 20 bucks in the bank and $3 million of mortgages. Okay. So
Hmm.
there are banks now that look for some balance. Like, is there some fallback? If the tenants aren't paying rent or the roof guy, I had to put a roof on one of my rentals, 13 grand, like it's gone,
Yeah.
right? If I
Yeah.
didn't have fallback, I got a problem,
Yeah.
right? Now my
That
assets
makes
are,
sense. It makes sense. Even for tenants, we ask for substantial savings of some sort. That
yeah,
it sounds like a mindful thing to do to have some types of savings or substantial savings that could just in case.
absolutely. I think I'll give you one more because I think it really
Mhm.
kind of encapsulates a lot of
This is the
stuff. I
fifth one.
think
I think we're on the fifth one now.
I don't know. We're gonna call
Yeah.
it the fifth one though,
Okay,
because
the
that's
fifth
it.
one.
Okay, that's all I got, man. I got nothing else. Um, the I think the biggest thing
Mhm.
if you're getting into the real estate market, okay, I am a firm believer
Yep.
your mortgage broker and your realtor and your lawyer,
Mm.
they have to be working together for you.
Yeah.
Okay. There's too many times when new mortgage agents come into the business and they get a referral, not from a realtor, from a friend, and they don't even call the realtor. Like, no, we should all be, if I get a
Mm.
deal like that, I call the realtor, hey, I'm Steven, how are you? Who are you? And I scare the crap out of them because no one's ever called them like that before. But
You're old
everyone's
school.
got,
You're calling
hey,
you're using the phone to call people. That's crazy.
I know I'm like, sorry, I know I should have texted first, say I'm about to call you, but it's it's funny how you get offended by that now. Don't call me, text me first. What are you
Yeah, yeah,
calling for? That's not what this
yeah,
is
yeah,
for. But I think everyone's got to be working together
yeah.
because I'm telling you, there are deals that we pull together because we're in communication, like
Hmm.
big time. There are deals
Hmm.
that fall apart. So I've heard, because I don't have this issue anymore, but because people aren't talking, they don't know what the hell's going on. That it's huge. You want to get into a competitive market that you got to know what your cash flow is, or you got to know what the asset is, or you might have to go firm. Like you better make sure you guys are talking to each other,
Yeah,
right? There's no
yeah.
more of this separation. So that is a big one, and people don't even think about that, right? They absolutely don't think about it. So
These were
I would
good. These
say
are
that
good tips. These are I like the fact that they're they're basic tips, but they're very very powerful. Like just to credit score, like that's amazing. Checking it monthly, I used to do it. Now it's every 6 months to a year. You're suggesting every month. That's pretty good.
absolutely, absolutely.
And everybody talking to each other. That's really good. So how do people find you?
Oh, geez. Just Google me, you'll find me. So I've got, oh man, how long do we have for this shameless plug? So you can so the team is the financialcollective.ca.
Yep.
We couldn't find a longer domain name, so we came up with the financialcollective.ca. But everything about me is in that website. You can also pretty much every social media except Twitter, or X or whatever the heck he's calling it these days.
Mm,
SG is in my initials, Stephen Green. So SG Mortgage Advice. I'm all over the place. So you could definitely
okay.
find me anywhere there. And then, of course, the Green Effect podcast weekly. Uh,
Awesome.
usually goes out every Tuesday night. And yeah, that's just, I call it my therapy session. I mean, I actually say, I don't know why people listen to this podcast. It's just me
I
talking
love
about,
it. I
yeah,
love it. I love it. I'll have to put in the link to so that's good. I love to hear other podcasts. That's awesome.
absolutely.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Look, thanks a
yeah,
lot for taking the time to speak with
my
us. I think
pleasure.
you got tons of knowledge there and a fun guy with some good substantial knowledge there, which can be used as well, like effectively used right away. Like there's no waiting around. You can check your credit score right away and then get your team, and that's very helpful as well. So
All
thank you very much, uh, and we'll talk to you later.
right. Thanks so much for having me. It's a lot of
You're
fun.
welcome. Bye.